Hi, everybody. This is Mike Hudson, along with my co host, as always, Greg Trainer. This is the Accessible Hunter podcast. And today we've got a good friend of mine. It's going to be on. I think you guys are in for a treat. Craig Scott has been a good friend to me for several years. And unfortunately, he's had to deal with me for the last, I don't know, 12, 14, 15 years. And, it's one of those situations where God brings people in and around your life, and you get to see them. And he's just one of those inspirations. So I think you guys are in for a good treat. Before we get there, though, Greg, how are you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing great up here in Pittsburgh, PA. It's about 60 degrees today, and the weekend is almost here. So I'm having a pretty good week, Mike. I appreciate you. And Craig, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's nice meeting you. And I got a little beard envy there, man. You're growing the ZZ Top beard. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me.
It's one of those things. I'm along with Greg, man. You've let that thing grow out and mature, and I know you got a new handle. The last time I talked to you, you were going by the bearded preacher, right?
The bearded pastor. Yes, sir.
Bearded pastor. There you go. There you go. So what you got going on these days, man? If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about you and your life, everything that you got going on, just to give some people some backstory.
All right. Well, first off, it's a pleasure for y'all to have me. Good to meet Greg, and like Mike said, I don't remember how long we've known each other, but it's been a while. But my story may be a little different than some of the guys y'all run across and feature on this podcast. But I was born with a birth defect called spina bifida.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in a chair all my life. But when my mom was pregnant and they were expecting their second child, um, this was 40 years ago. So they did all the ultrasounds during the pregnancy and all that stuff. And um, the day I was born, the doctor looked at my parents and they said, "Your child's been born with a pretty severe birth defect." And quite honestly, they didn't know what to do.
Right.
This was down in Greenwood.
Mm-hmm.
And so they transferred me to Greenville Memorial, where I stayed for 6 weeks. And finally came back home. We were living in Greenwood at the time. Through a series of events, we ended up moving to the Easley area when I was 3, because all my doctors were up there. Grew up going to Shriners Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
which is a fantastic place. I didn't see that as a child, but now as a 40-year-old, I see everything they do, and it's a great place. But I stayed up there for 18 years of my life, and then in 2004, my parents decided to move back to Greenwood, and I was working at Home Depot at the time, making pretty much minimum wage. And I had been there for 3 years, and went to the HR manager, told him the situation, and pretty much asked for a raise so that I could move out on my own, and was told no. And so I moved back to Greenwood in '05, and that's probably about the time I met Mike. Um, and um, Ended up meeting my future wife at the time. And we're I laugh because me and my wife, we met in 2005, and we didn't start dating until 2014. So I laugh and tell people
Right.
it took her 9 years. It took me 9 years to convince her to have anything to do with me, which, if you know my wife, I married way above my means.
I
Um,
understand.
Mike, you can agree with that.
And 100%, 100%.
And so we got married in 2017, started dating in
Mm-hmm.
14, got married in 17. Through that series of time, I was called into the ministry, and we got married. I actually did my trial sermon at the church that I was pastoring at the time on April the 9th, 2017, and they voted us in that day.
Yeah.
And I looked at the interim pastor and I said, "Man, I'm getting married in 3 weeks. Can you stay for the next 3 weeks?" And so he stayed for the next 3 weeks. We got married, went on the honeymoon, came back from the honeymoon, and I started pastoring the next Sunday. But as far as the chair, you know, this is all I've ever known. And I laugh and tell people all the time that, I'm 40 years old. And if I wasn't born in the chair, having to use the chair,
Right.
I've done enough stupid stuff in my life. I'd probably be in one by now anyway. So,
Right.
and I don't say that lightly, but yeah, I'd probably be in one by now anyway, because it's never stopped me.
Right.
And we can get into all that later on if we need to. But
Yeah, no, that's the funny thing, man. I'm right along with you. I was destined for this chair long ago. Uh, Sadly, I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, and it just finally caught up with me. I actually had a football coach one year. He just told me, he said, "Man, you keep hitting people like that, leading with your head, you're going to break your neck." Sure enough, it just wasn't on the football field. It is what it is, man.
yeah,
And the chair is just it's an accoutrement, it's a way I get around from A to B. I just make the chair look good.
that's right.
That's the only thing. It's
And I
funny.
just got me a brand new one after 14 years, so it's
Yeah,
looking good right now. So
I know me and you were talking on the phone and you were telling me that. Greg, can you believe that it took them 14 years to help get him a new chair?
The situation that we all go through with healthcare is just unbelievable. I mean, I've been blessed to have really good advocates for me the last couple of years, but the amount of hoops that we have to jump through and to have our insurance companies just deny and delay, it's really disheartening. So 14 years, that's just the longest I've ever heard. I mean, Craig,
well,
that had to be so frustrating.
well, part of that 14 years was on me. And going back to the fact that I've done stupid stuff in my life that would have probably already put me in the chair. But I was raised by a mom and dad that I'm still blessed to have.
Right.
They are fantastic. And growing up, they always pushed me to be independent, and that has created some stubbornness in my life. So I say that to say that some of that 14 years was on me, because the way that started out was I went to the doctor and got a prescription for a new wheelchair, and then insurance wouldn't cover it because I didn't go to the doctor to get that prescription. And I was like, I ain't going back just to get a prescription. And so anyway, so part of that 14 years was my fault, but it wasn't all the insurance company. But
Gotcha. Hey, it took a long time to creep over there and get that thing, man.
man, it took a kidney stone earlier last year for me to even go back to the doctor. And that was the worst experience I've ever had.
Hey,
Pray I
man,
never
it got you in a new seat. Got you in a new seat.
That it did. So
that's one of those things. God works in mysterious ways, my friend.
that he does, and I pray he never gives me another one of them things. They're horrible.
That's the way we try to work through some hard-headedness, I guess.
Well, God definitely humbled me with that kidney stone. Let me tell you, it was awful. So
I'm telling you, man. So I know you were doing traditional pastoring for a while. How was that aspect, you think? How did the chair aspect come into play? It's one of those things we talk about. I know the chair is not an issue in that realm, but what I'm trying to get people's mindset is like an empathetic viewpoint from our position, right? Me and Greg went to this format talking about wanting to be able to allow people to see us in every realm of society. And, we've been blessed to interview people from athletes that are in the Olympics, you name it, down the road. And, you're the first in this realm that have been called to ministry. And how do you see that from a chair standpoint?
How much liberty I got here?
Hey, man, you let it roll.
All right. Because I didn't know if you were going to ask this question or not, or anything to do with this question, but man, I would not be where I am today, had it not been for God working through my life through his son, Jesus Christ. I'm a firm believer that, and I don't know if I'm going to end up answering your question or not, but if I don't answer it, just tell me. But I'm a firm believer that God always has a plan. And I believe he had a plan for me before the foundation of the world. He knew how I was going to be born. He knew the situation that was going to precede me being born. He knew what was going to happen the day I was born. And like I said earlier, the doctors 40 years ago, they didn't know what to do with me when I was born. And so that's why they sent me to Greenville. And they actually told my parents that if I survived, I would never be able to do anything on my own.
Right.
But praise God that he had a plan. And I've been really, really fortunate. I talk to people who have children who have spina bifida, and, you know, they've already had countless surgeries. I haven't had a surgery to do a spina bifida since I was in 4th grade. But I say all that to say that, you know, I firmly believe that God had a plan. And just like we always like to quote Jeremiah 29:11 that says, you know, where the Lord says that I have plans for you, plans for wealth and for prospering and all these other things. And, you know, that doesn't, we take that verse out of context a lot of times, because wealth and prosperity and all that stuff doesn't always mean what we think it means. And, you know, people would look at my life, and going back to Jeremiah 29:11, verse 10 says that he tells the people of God, he's like, you're going to be here in captivity for 70 years, but I have a plan. And so, you know, people all the time, one of the things, I'll use this as an analogy. One of the things, been married for almost 7 years. And, you know, me and my wife will go out on a date. And one of the things I always want to do for my wife is hold the door for her. And,
Right.
Greg, I don't know, Mike knows my personality and my sense of humor, but like, people will literally like break their neck when they see me coming to open the door. And I know they're just trying to be nice and that kind of thing. But sometimes I'll look at them and say, man, my arms are fine. It's my legs that are the problem. Like let me hold the door for my wife. And, but I say that to say, you know, I'm not being a smart aleck when I say that, but I say that to say that God has used the chair from a spiritual standpoint to get me into conversations that I wouldn't normally be able to get into. You know, I can't tell you the number of times where I've been getting in my truck and I still lift my chair. It's sitting behind me right now. I get on the running board and pick my chair up and put it in the truck. And I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody come up to me wanting me to put the chair in the truck, or wanting to put the chair in the truck. And usually I'll let them, and they'll look at me and they'll be like, man, that's gotta be hard. And I'm like, no, not really. It's just day-to-day life for me. But let me tell you why it's not hard. And then I get to share the gospel with them. So, you know, God has used what most people see as a hindrance, really for a blessing.
Yeah, we got hung up there with a little technical difficulties, but we're back at it now. So we got Craig back. Here we go.
But anyway, going back to, I was having a conversation with a guy about a year ago, and he looked at me, and obviously I think he was talking about my situation. And he said, yeah, he said, but the problem comes in when God decides not to heal. And he said, what do you do in that situation? And I looked at him and I said, you still call it a blessing? And his jaw hit the floor. And I said, let me tell you what I mean. And I'm not going to go into everything we talked about, but I said, the blessing is not being in the chair. I said, but the blessing is the hardest time. Some of the hardest times in my life are the times that I drew closest to the Lord. And you see, whatever the situation is, whether it's cancer or, you know, a loved one dying, or a case like us where we're going to roll around the rest of our life and
Right.
not be able to walk. That's not the blessing. The blessing is that we get the presence of the Lord in that, walking along beside us. And
You know,
so, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, while we were having technical difficulties, me and Greg were talking about the same thing. It's where people see us and see our issues. I didn't volunteer for the chair, but God didn't
Absolutely
ask my
not.
opinion. And, where we're seeing all the hardship, we're still making positive strides. And, some of the toughest things I've ever gone through um, were because of my hard headedness, not because of anything else and not because of the chair. But it comes back to the same thing, man. God still uses broken vessels. And,
Absolutely.
we're just blessed. It changed the whole perception of my life. It changed the trajectory of my life, but it changed it for a positive. And, I'm heading in a whole new realm and being able to be around people and love on people that I never would have been around had it not have been for the chair.
Absolutely.
And
And
that's a
I've
positive,
seen
man.
I've seen you firsthand doing that, and you've had the privilege of helping a lot of people. And whether you know it or not, you've helped me through a lot. Even though this is all I've ever known. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I told him, I was like, man, if I was able to get up and walk tomorrow, I said I probably wouldn't be able to do half the stuff I can do because I've learned how to do it sitting down. And so,
Right.
you know, um, just seeing things like that. But yeah, no, I mean the spiritual aspect of it has played a huge part in my life because um, I'm a firm believer that God uses what most see as bad for good. Genesis 50:20. Not to go into that whole context, but Joseph's brothers sent him off. They were going to kill him and then send him off to slavery just so they could gain from it. And then that ended up to where, he was able to save them years down the road. And he
Right.
says, what you meant for bad, God meant it for good, that many people would be saved. And
Right.
so, it's all about perspective, in my
100%.
opinion.
100%.
So,
One of the most debilitating things, man, is a closed mind. And
absolutely.
we can do just about anything if we just pick up, push on, and keep on going. And a lot of times that's what I'll hashtag. I didn't volunteer for a lot of things, but making sure we just keep on and press on. That's what it's about. Life can be
Mhm.
great. We just got to get to live in it, not existing, not staying in the moment of ailments. And what can you do to fix the ailment? Nothing.
That's right.
And so just keep moving, man. So
That's
I
right.
know I know you and Allison, you guys are doing good, man. You guys are a huge inspiration to me. And what I know last time me and you talked, you were getting ready to make some changes in life. Um,
Yes, sir.
Looking at a different career. Is that something that you can talk about now, or is it something you're still holding out on, man? And don't let me put you on the spot.
No, you're good. I did step down from the church that I was pastoring. It wasn't because it was a bad situation or anything like that. We
Right.
just felt like it was God leading us to do it at that place and time. And but my goal is to you know be back in pastoral ministry sooner than later. Um, but I'm the type of guy that it's in my DNA. The Lord He's changed my life. He's changed my heart. So whether or not at this point in my life, I mean, I still have Reverend in front of my name because that's not going to go away. But, even though I'm not in pastoral ministry, to me, life is ministry. Day to day life
100%.
is ministry. I believe that God ordains um, every conversation that we get into, and even though I'm not preaching week to week right now, you know, I firmly believe that everybody that God puts in my path each and every day, it's an opportunity to, share the goodness of God with that person. Now, do I always do that? No. Sometimes I get caught up in the things of this world. And I'm like, I don't have time to do this. But What if
Right.
I'm the only person that ever tells that person about Jesus? So, yeah, right now we're in a season of waiting. But it's a good season. We're still relying on the Lord and seeing what He has next, and firmly believe that He has a plan. So,
Hey, man, I'm right along with you. Sometimes that's what it takes. And a lot of times that's where we grow the most is, standing back and letting him be God and us not have to figure it all out. And I
absolutely.
didn't, the podcast is not really set up just to be solely on religion, and we don't want to isolate anybody, but, we're just
Absolutely.
talking about from our perspectives. And, I know you enjoy outdoor activities, and I know you enjoy travel, and,
Yes,
man, I see you guys pop up all the time, and you got your puppy out
sir.
there doing stuff, and you know, um, that's the whole thing. We just want people to see that regardless of a chair or whatever ailments or life that you're going through, that we're just the same people. You're a husband, you're a puppy parent. I mean, all of that. And again, you didn't know any different. Me and Greg come from a different standpoint, but it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what your life is going through right now. I told somebody the other day, if we live long enough, we're all heading towards a chair, right? We're all heading
Absolutely.
towards a walker or something of that aspect. Aging just has the weight of humbling us, if you will. And we just got to the chair a little bit earlier than most.
That's right.
But
And
man, I'm gonna tell you. So my next question, I guess, not to bounce around, and if Greg, you got anything, I was just going. It's right now it's cold. It's not as bad as it has been today, but what travels have you guys been up to lately, and where do you have coming up soon?
Um, we actually, the last time we traveled, we went to Pigeon. Well, I take that back. We just went to Myrtle Beach this past weekend with some college students. We lead a college a ministry on one of the college campuses down here, and we were in Myrtle Beach with about 1,000 college students. We weren't responsible for the whole 1,000, thank God, but we were responsible for a handful of them. But we went to the beach to a conference, and the students had a real good time. And I don't know if this is where that conversation's going, but a lot of times in travel, things come up, and um, we got down there Friday night, and I made these reservations probably 6 months ago, and I was very explicit in what we needed in a hotel room,
Right.
and we got in there, and I am a little bit more mobile than some, um, but I specifically asked for a roll-in shower.
Hmm.
And the room, it was ADA, it was ADA compliant, but it had a bathtub.
Right.
And so I went back downstairs and I told them the situation. I said, I can make it work if I need to. And I said, but do you have anything else? So they sent us to another floor, and they said, you might be in luck because we have the King Suite open that has a walk-in shower. So we went and checked that room out, and they did. It had a walk-in shower, but the bathroom door wasn't wide enough to get the chair in the
Oh,
bathroom. So
hey,
we ended up staying in the room we were in, which we made it work.
right.
It did present some challenges, but yeah, we went to Myrtle Beach this past weekend, and then back in September we were in Pigeon Forge, which we always stay the same place up there, and that hotel is fantastic. We've never had a problem with them. Um, but we try to travel a good bit. My wife, she works an 8 to 5, so that kind of puts a you know damper on things sometimes. And there for the first 6.5 years of our marriage, she was working 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and then I had to be here on the weekends. So we had
Right.
to plan pretty carefully how to do that.
you,
But
you
yeah,
know, Craig,
so
you bring up a really good point though about being adaptable and also asking, the hotel management, how can you change this? And sometimes you have to go back to, the original room, but you let them know, hopefully that, you made the reservation 6 months in advance and you were kind of expecting something different, but you
Hmm.
made it work. You rolled with it, and I'm sure you guys had
that's
a
right.
good time for the conference. My wife and I like to travel, but man, I like to go to familiar places where I know things are going to be right, and that makes me a little less adventuresome than you guys that travel a good bit to different places. But there's always something that we have to deal with and kind of speak with people and educate them about. And sometimes it can be changed, but other times you just have to deal with it.
Yeah. And talking about the adventurous part, I'm the type of guy that, and my wife is completely different than I am. I'm gonna jump in head first and then figure out things as I go. My wife, she's a little bit more cautious on that, and I think that's why we make a good pair. But yeah, I mean, even though we don't really go to the same places and that kind of thing, I'm still the guy that if I need to be somewhere by say 9 o'clock, I'm showing up at 8:30.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to scope the scene out, figure out where everything is. And my wife always laughs at me about that because when I say we need to be somewhere at 9 or 10 o'clock, she's like, "Does that really mean 8:30?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yes, it
I'm
does.
like, no, it might mean 15 minutes early, but I like to
No.
get places and scope the scene out and kind of figure out, if there's anything out of the ordinary, how I'm going to do it and that kind of thing. Because I hate drawing attention to myself. So,
Right. Right. And
and
man, we can fully
you know,
relate. I tell my wife all the time, dude, if I show up on time, we're late. And I like to be somewhere early. I can
exactly.
kill time. I can kill time. I can't make it up. And so, I'd rather be sitting in the
Now let
parking
me ask
lot
you this.
wasting my time. Talk to me.
Exactly. Let me ask you this: is that a wheelchair thing or is that a military thing?
Oh no, that's straight military thing. But you know, but I'm seeing more and more. It may be, and I might put my foot in my mouth. It might be a guy thing because you got three of us on here, and all three are nodding like, "Yeah, I want to be there early," because I can't make up the time. And my wife drives like Dale Earnhardt sometimes, and we still get close to being late. And we've kind of worked that out. If it's a me thing or a Roar event or any of that stuff, I say let's get there early on my time frame. If it's going to be
Yeah.
something that's related to your business, we'll go on your time frame. I won't say anything. And so that's gotten me in trouble in the past, but
I was about
it
to say,
is
is
what it
Michael
is.
gonna hear this?
Michael is in the room.
Though that's a really good solution to that, Mike, because I've been late twice in my entire life, and it still bothers me the two times I was late and couldn't do anything about it. But we need to let that stuff go a little bit. Maybe that's a good situation that if it's on best time for me, that I kind of take your advice and we go on her time schedule. It doesn't always have to be my time schedule. That's something that I appreciate hearing today.
And
That
I've figured out too. Sometimes when I just let it go and go on my wife's schedule, I'm a lot less stressed out.
Yeah.
right,
So,
right. And I guess
um,
that's why women live a lot longer than us, man. We let everything stress us out, whether we want to let it show or not. It's still stressing me out. If we're running late, man, I'm clawing at the walls. I'm like,
Yeah.
can't happen, cannot
yeah, we're
happen.
actually going somewhere next Thursday. We're going up to Greenville and to a concert, and it's at 7:30. And my wife works till 5 o'clock, so I've already
Ooh,
had the conversation with her, been like, okay, you probably need to get off by 3, and
Yeah.
that way it'll give us an hour to drive up there, and then we're gonna be early, but you know, at
Well,
least
if
we
it
won't be
if it's
late.
at the well, if it's at the well or any of those downtown, man, it's tough finding parking. Everything is getting so clustered you can't get through. Matter of fact, I know this is changing the subject a little bit, but staying with it. The last concert me and Michael went to, it was the same day they had the Christmas parade. Absolutely no parking anywhere. And we ended up having to go up and down the street till you could just find anywhere to park. It makes it tough, man. Makes it tough. Wheelchair aside, you just couldn't find
Yeah.
anywhere for even able-bodied folks to get to.
Right.
Well, we actually went, and I got the situation taken care of, so I'm not gonna say where it was. But we went somewhere a while back, and got there and parked in a parking garage, and we had to park on the 5th level to get a handicap spot, because a lot of times earlier in my life I didn't worry about using handicap spots, but I've had enough people park right up on me to, I try to use handicap spots now. And we got there and we parked on the 5th level of the parking garage. The parking garage had 3 different elevators. Every single one of them was out of order.
Wow, boy.
So we rolled down 5 flights of a parking garage, which wasn't a problem going down.
Right.
but going up, I got to about the 3rd floor and I was like, I got to take a break. Like I ain't as young as I used to be. So, but I contacted a friend of mine that lived in that area and he took care of the situation. So,
it makes it tough.
That's one of the things that most people don't have to worry about. As a quadriplegic, I'm in a power chair. Finding the right way in and out of a place. If there's a little step down, that's just not doable, in a power chair.
Yeah.
So it's things that we do have to worry about. If elevators aren't working, if we go the wrong way. And I think that adds to the planning process a lot that we need to take care of,
Right.
Absolutely. And probably one of my biggest, I'm not a guy that, and I'm not saying y'all are either. I know Mike's not, for sure, but, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to things. I just kind of roll with things. That's the way I've always been. But the older I get, the more I realize, like, why can't we just outlaw curbs? Because a lot of times a place will have a ramp, but it'll be so far out of the way. And I'm like, why can't we just put the ramp in front of the door? You know what I'm saying? Like it'll be all the way on the side of the building or something like that. And I'm like, why can't we just put it right in front of the door? Like you have a curb there, you can very easily tear the curb out,
right,
and just make it into a ramp.
Man, I'm telling you,
universal design needs to go a long way, to get people in and out. And you wonder why they're putting up steps sometimes when it's a new building and they can make a very, accessible area that looks pleasant, that is functioning for everyone, but yet they put in a 6-inch step for no apparent reason. I just don't get it either, Craig.
That's part of the stump jumping aspect of it. We get to make a run and jump. I don't understand some of the engineering that goes into some of the places, and you see it. Greg hit the nail on the head. There's no apparent reason sometimes to why there's a curb cut, or we've gone to places that have 18-inch curbs, and even when I was in my manual chair a good bit, I'm not hopping that. And it's one of those things.
I don't hop curbs anymore. I used to, but I don't anymore.
Yeah. So I've jumped myself right off into some situations, literally, and you'll end up in the twilight zone for sure.
Well, my thing now is a 40-year-old. I'm fatter than I used to be, so it doesn't. It's not as nice on the chair anymore when I do stuff like that. So
that's just my winter insulation. But
that's right. Mine never goes away.
Mine either. Man, I have one more question for you, and I won't keep you tied up. I know you guys are really busy. Looking at all the stuff for the favorite puppy, man. So I've been trying to keep up with you on your puppy, man. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys got going on with that.
I actually had a friend of mine tell me about it. I didn't know anything about it, but we have a boxer. He's about 6.5 years old. Everybody in Greenwood knows him. I think everybody on Facebook knows him. I actually had somebody come up to me one time a while back, and my wife, her name is Allison, and she was standing right next to me, and this lady walked up to me and she said, "I know your dog's name, but what is your wife's name?" So like everybody knows my dog. And he's great, man. He's very, very smart. But anyway, we entered into this contest to try to get him to earn his keep a little bit. But The winner gets $10,000. I don't know how much of that'll actually be taxed, but probably most of it. But he's currently in first place. The first cut ends today, so he's probably definitely going to make the first cut.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we entered him into that, and but it's amazing to me, especially him, like how smart dogs are. And I know Mike, I know y'all have dogs too. Spurgeon, that's his name. He's named after a preacher from the 1800s. But he will do things with me that he won't do with my wife. Like for instance, at the house, we don't have a house phone. That's one of the things we didn't want when we moved into our house. So all we have is cell phones. And I was out in the yard with him one day. This has been a couple years ago. And I dropped my phone. And before I could reach down to pick it up, that dog grabbed my phone, and he wasn't running from me, but he was running circles around me. And he knew that I was on grass, so he knew that I couldn't move that fast. And this went on for like an hour and a half where he had my phone in his mouth. And, you know, he just thought he was playing around, and he didn't chew the phone up. But finally, he accidentally dropped it, and I was able to like roll on top of it so he couldn't get to it. But once I got my phone back, he knew he was in trouble, and he just went straight in the house and got in his kennel. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Like, but yeah, he'll do things, and too, like if I get out of the chair and I'm on the floor or something like that, he spazzes out, like he thinks something's wrong.
Sure.
And but it's just interesting to me how even untrained animals, he's not trained to be a service dog, but yet he knows when something's out of character. And but yeah, he's our baby. He's an 80-pound boxer, and he thinks he's 10 pounds. So
oh yeah, I know Greg can relate, man. He keeps hitting mute over there on his end, he's got his dog in there with him. And you're right. You know, most of the time people don't take the time to see the characters that they are. I just did a post not too long ago. I can't even get into bed if I'm using a Hoyer or anything else. My dog wants to jump in my lap. I mean, he'll jump in my lap, and it's funny, you know, just the character that he is. You know, you got on the ground, your dog's like, hey, that's Dad's out of his element. What's going on? Mine will do it in a minute, man. And, you know, same thing. You don't have to train them to be protection animals. They're going to do it because they love us. But, man, my dog is a true character. He's a little white fluff ball that thinks he's a farm dog. And as soon as we start heading onto the property, man, he wants to lead the herd.
Yeah, because how many acres y'all got now? Y'all got a good bit up there, don't you?
Not as many as I'd like to have, but I'm trying to push on that a little bit. I told my wife I want to be Winnie the Pooh and have at least 100 that we can get more people out. But it's a work in progress. But
yeah, we got it between 30 and 35, and that's plenty for us. So
yeah, but Greg, I know you guys have a puppy and stay at that, but I know we don't usually try to go too long on some of the podcasts. But I know you wanted some follow-up or had any follow-up. I was going to give you an opportunity to ask Craig before he got gone.
Sure. Well, Craig, I really can relate to so many things that you were talking about today. And, you know, I'm glad we're kind of ending up with animals, because I've had 2 service dogs over my 25 years. You know, they were officially trained service dogs, and just, you know, wonderful animals. Now we got a little 18-pound golden doodle who kind of stole my heart, and she's a little troublemaker. And we went from PhD dogs to maybe a kindergarten mentality dog, but I love her. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. You know, they definitely understand our moods, and all they want to do is love us. So animals, for me, you know, they're with me all day long, and give me a lot of confidence. And I wouldn't change a thing as far as animals, whether they take our phone and run or they put it in our lap. They're characters in our play, you know?
Right.
That's right.
That's the thing about it, man. We just got to find joy in everything we do. We could easily focus on the negative, but it's not about that, man. It's really about just guys and girls taking time to see life for what it is, enjoying life. And, Craig, man, I appreciate you coming on with us last minute. And I've been trying to
Absolutely.
get in touch with you and do this. And,
I've had
we
to
would love
turn
to
you down
have
a
you
few
back.
times.
Well,
And
it is what it is. Life, that's what
uh,
life's like. We get it. But again, man, you hit the nail on the head, and it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for all your life, or you're like me and Greg that we're into it now for 25 years, or you're a newer injury. Life has a way of jumping on us, and if we focus on the negative, then it's gonna be negative. But we've got to
that's right.
find a way to get back to living, man. And I truly appreciate all that you do and the attitude in which you do it, man. So you keep pushing,
Absolutely.
buddy.
It's,
Go
you
ahead.
know, it, it, I don't want anybody to, especially in a situation like we're in, I don't want anybody to think that it's always easy, because it's not.
Right.
But and one of the things I wanted to say before we got off, because this has been a big part of my life too. For the longest time, I didn't think I'd ever get married. And
Right.
so, I didn't get married till I was 33 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But, marriage, even in our situation, is possible, and it can be great. I was fortunate enough to marry a girl that's, man, she's fantastic. And, like every other married couple, we have our moments, but, and marriage in itself is a learning experience, but throw a chair in there and it's definitely a learning experience. But,
Right.
just don't, I would encourage anybody who's not married that's in a chair, don't let that stop you, but also don't let it frustrate you, because, I'm a firm believer that anything can be a learning experience. And, throughout our 6.5 years that we've been married, my wife's had to learn. Our house is pretty accessible, but a lot of our, like for instance, a lot of our kitchen cabinets are up top, and so she's
Mm-hmm.
got to remember to put some things down below where I can get them if she's not at the house. And
Right.
that's happened once or twice, but it's just a learning experience, and that's life in general.
Right.
So like Mike and always says, just keep rolling with it, and learn from it and keep moving forward. So,
That's what life's about. You hit the nail on the head again, man. Um, it's mind blowing sometimes when I sit back and look at all the people around us. And I mean, just today, you got three guys on here that are we're out of the norm. And I don't say that for kudos or anything else, but
well, what's
you're
normal?
right. Yeah, you're right. What is normal? But even out of the realm of our spectrum, we're kind of out of the norm because we are all three in chairs. All three are married. My bride keeps me in check more times than I uh, care to admit. But you're right, man. It's a learning curve, but that's not necessarily from the chair standpoint always. It's, man, we just always think different. And
Yeah,
we love different, we laugh different, and we just have to figure that out. And you're right, man. We got to encourage more and more guys not to stay focused on the negative parts of it. There's a lady out there, or a gentleman out there for you, or whatever. Um, and we just got to make sure we just keep loving on each other. And
that's right. And I'll say this because I haven't met Greg's wife, but Michael, and I know you said she was in the room,
oh
but
yeah,
and she's probably gonna kill me for saying this, maybe not, but one of my funniest stories about her was that time, one of those times we went bowling, and I went back up to the group and I was laughing about it, that they charged me $2 for bowling shoes.
right.
And Michael was like, no, absolutely not. And I was like, Michael, it's $2. And she was like, no, absolutely not. And she went back up there and got my $2 back.
Hey man, my bride doesn't play that. She's my biggest proponent, man. If it's wrong, it's wrong, and she's gonna jump in there. But man, they're just stylish. I know you were just trying to be a part of the crew.
That's the funniest
Uh,
story I've heard all day, boys. That's that's what I'm going to
you can
tell
thank
again.
Michael
But
for that one.
I might have to switch the names around and make that part of my my story there. Whenever I'm talking to people, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
But guys, man, we could go on and on. I hope we can get you back on here, Craig, because that's
absolutely,
the
man.
kicker.
Anytime.
That's
Just
the
give me a
kicker.
heads up and I can make it work most
Oh
times.
yeah.
So,
Me and Greg talk about it all the time. You can get somebody on these podcasts and you never know where they're going to go. We just enjoy seeing people where they are and how life continues to roll. And man, it just leads from one avenue to another. And again, man, thank you for taking extra time. I know you were busy this morning and we made it work out or whatever, but man, I truly appreciate you and I appreciate you taking the time.
well, I appreciate y'all having me. And like I said, just give me a heads up. And anytime y'all would like to have me back, I'd be honored to do it. So